What's going on, guys? David Eickholt here for HawkeyeInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. I appreciate everybody tuning in for the live. I apologize if you are, because I look like a mess. That's what happens on 3 hours of sleep, driving back from Madison last night. Iowa's 37-0 victory. Massive, much needed, but it also felt like Iowa left a lot of meat on the bone there. Felt like it probably should have been a 50-point game. And I think once Iowa went up 17-0, I think we all kind of knew what the result was going to be, because I think Wisconsin is about where Iowa was a couple of years ago on offense, but they don't have that elite defense or the elite special teams to kind of continue to push them forward. But yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in this Sunday morning before the NFL starts, which was kind of an important thing for me as well. But let's dive right into it. Feel free to comment all down below if you want me to hit on anything, if you have a question, anything else like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a big win. I think you have to start with Mark Gronowski. I don't think he was 100%. I think it's fairly obvious to everybody he was not 100%. Looked a little bit tentative when he ran. There were a couple times when he ran to the sidelines. Did look like he had trouble kind of decelerating, and that was something that was noteworthy a couple weeks ago when we got the chance to talk to Kirk when they were diagnosing his initial injury. Now, at the same time, only had one really bad pass, I think, which was the one downfield, which was the interception. It looked like Tim Lester is going for the kill shot. I don't particularly think it was that time to do it. It was kind of double covered. Wisconsin spotted it out, but Iowa's defense continued to step up, forced some stops there, but not Mark's best game. But again, I don't think that he was anywhere near 100%, but it's also the type of performance that you think about. He has to be better next week against Penn State, and Penn State's a whole different animal, and we'll get to that later. But Iowa's rushing attack was fantastic. The Iowa's offensive line continued to really prove themselves about what an elite unit they've become this season. I think Trevor Lauck's done a really nice job at left tackle. I think Cade Pieper at right guard's been really good as well. So you need to give them a lot of credit there. But yeah, I mean, you just look over the stats. I think the best part for Iowa is, Caleb Johnson's Caleb Johnson. What he did was fantastic last year for Iowa. But there are different guys that are able to move the football, right? It doesn't matter who the back is. Iowa's running backs are attacking the holes. They're utilizing them, and they're constantly getting yardage. Iowa, 210 rushing yards. Last night, Kamari Moulton, 15 rushes, 96 yards, and a touchdown, 6.5 yards a carry. Also had 3 grabs for 29 yards. Just seems like he's emerged as Iowa's every down back. He's been awesome this season since he's come back healthy. Then Xavier Williams, really nice job by him, especially coming back from injury. Did not look like a shell of himself whatsoever. I thought he played a really good game. Only got, let me double check stats here, 7 carries for 55 yards, had 2 touchdowns, had that 29-yard touchdown. And on that 19-yard touchdown, I don't know if everybody caught it, but he had a really nice cutback, and that was kind of Sean Green-esque to me. I know they're kind of built similarly. I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit, and that's incredibly high praise for him, but he's certainly doing a lot. And then Nathan McNeil, I mean, what a mature runner. I think if you're Omar Young, if you're Kirk Ferentz, if you're Tim Lester, you have to feel good about the stable of running backs that you have. And by the way, they're all like multiple years of eligibility remaining, right? So like you're going to get Kamari next year. You're going to get, we haven't even talked about Jazz Patterson. He's still out for the time being. Does feel like there might be too many cooks in the kitchen, but at the same time, we all know you need about 4 or 5 different running backs over the course of the season, especially with the way Iowa's luck has kind of been, right? I know some people are asking any more info on Mark's injury specifically. No, we kind of pushed on it a little bit. They kind of declined to share the specifics, but the only thing I'll be able to tell you is he basically lived in the training room throughout the past couple of weeks. He would not have been able to go last Saturday. And Kirk even said he didn't, 2 weeks ago, he was worried about if Mark was going to play against Wisconsin. It was kind of a big sigh of relief when the imaging came back, and it was in favor of Iowa. He keeps saying positive, but it was negative. And that's a good thing, right? So, we all know it's just a knee. I think the important thing is there hasn't been swelling. There hasn't been soreness. And Mark Gronowski himself last night said that it's as confident and as healthy and he feels as good as he has since the injury occurred, right? But, it's one of those things where they're going to have to continue to monitor the next week because you need a healthy Mark Gronowski and a productive Mark Gronowski against Penn State. I know Penn State's reeling. I know they've lost 3 straight games. Iowa's actually favored, by the way. I don't know if any of you have caught the line yet. Iowa is, I think it moved up 2.5 points in favor of the Hawkeyes this morning. That's going to be something to watch there. But the other side of it, too, is Drew Aller, the starting quarterback for Penn State, is out for the year. It remains to be determined who's going to end up starting for the Nittany Lions. It's probably going to be Ethan Grunkmeyer. They've been very high on him as a staff there. Sought after recruit. At the same time, I'm curious if James Franklin even makes the trip to Iowa City. Penn State message boards are calling for some heads, but his buyout's like $50 million. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think for Mark too, I think the benefit of having a guy with a master's degree already is he has a lot of extra time. And that's what Mark said. He was able to spend like 6 to 7 hours a day in that training room to rehab his knee, to get an extra massage, ice baths, whatever the case may be, to continue to kind of work through that knee injury. He's been able to kind of do. And I don't think if he had not been able to do that, it remains to be seen if he would have played. Let's see. Yeah, no, Aaron, exactly. That was kind of my big thing is, was he going to be honest if he could decelerate? There were a couple times, again, he ran out of bounds toward the press box side, and he kind of ran to the wall a little bit, and it just didn't really look like himself. And that was something that kind of alarmed me. And you could almost tell, like, he was second-guessing his running. He didn't feel totally confident in that knee. And somebody else I think somebody else said in the chat too, yeah, I really don't know if they should have played Mark yesterday. I think the important part is he's still healthy. He got through the game unscathed. At the same time, thought Mark played a little bit too much, just given how the game was going. I thought they should have taken him out with about 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, at least at the start of the fourth quarter. Just save him some work, right? And the other part is, again, we haven't even talked about Jeremy Hecklinski. Now moved up to that number 2 spot. Really seems like him and Hank Brown are competing, going back and forth there. Love that for the room. And Kirk said before people overreact, it's going to be a constant back and forth. But if Iowa does not attack the transfer portal for a quarterback in the transfer portal window, I think it's going to set up for quite a quarterback competition for the spring, right? And I do think it was good to see Hecklinski. I mean, you can't take too much away. 1 for 1, 2 yards, only got 1 series, but it's his first college action. I think getting the jitters out there it's kind of a big deal as well. But again, the running game was fantastic. Give a lot of credit to George Barnett and that offensive line. I think they've done a really nice job this season. And I'm of the opinion, if they played Hecklinski, if they played Brown, I mean, it was going to take a lot for Iowa to lose that game. I picked Iowa by double digits. This is the worst Wisconsin team I've seen, at least probably in the past 20 years, right? And I didn't expect much, but they were worse than I thought. And honestly, I don't think Wisconsin's going to win a game the rest of the season. But at the same time, you can't criticize Iowa for going on the road to Madison, winning 37-0, right? So a couple interesting components there. Now, I will get back to the offense, because I know some people want to continue to talk about the offense. Oh, wait, really quick. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I was stunned. It was only 2.5, 3 points. Look, I'm not saying Iowa's the cream of the crop in the Big Ten, but Wisconsin's bad. Like, you can't. When I was analyzing the matchup, I know I did something with Iowa Everywhere with Andrew Downs, and we were kind of going position by position, and defense, offense, special teams. Barring a major collapse or an anomaly by Iowa, they were not going to lose that game yesterday. It was an overmatched team. Iowa's been really just more consistent this season. And you hate the what-if game, but like Iowa is only a handful of plays away from being undefeated. I think they should have beaten Indiana. I really can't say the same about Iowa State, because I thought Iowa State controlled that game better than Iowa, and Iowa just missed out on opportunities. But guys, talk about the defense. Defensive line, I thought, was fantastic yesterday. I mean, they're turning into the new Doughboys. And I think that's kind of really funny to watch when you kind of think about it. Bryce Hawthorne, we've kind of raved behind the scenes about how athletic he is. We've been repeatedly told by that. We told Hawkeye Insider subscribers about that. A diving catch was really, really good to see. Bryce Hawthorne told us after the game it was his first career interception at any level. So he's never had an interception before. And, Kelvin Bell and Jay Neiman were extremely happy because they do that tip drill at least once a week in practice. So to see a defensive lineman, Brian Allen, get the pressure, get the tip, and Hawthorne to finish it off, it does translate to levels, right? It's not just the secondary. It's not just the linebackers. You have the defensive linemen actively looking for the football when there's a tipped ball and they're able to make the grab. Really good play. And then Aaron Graves, man, I mean, he's been, I think, a consistent force for Iowa this season, throughout the last couple of seasons. Really like the coverage call and the defensive line call by Bell and Phil Parker to kind of shift Graves to the outside. Graves read that screen perfectly. He was really upset that he got tackled at the 1 yard line. I need to look at the replay again. I thought he got in. Aaron Graves thought he got in. Bryce Hawthorne thought he got in. TJ Hall thought he got in. What a cool moment for him, though. But you got to give the defensive line a lot of credit. Iowa only had 2 tackles for loss yesterday. They did not get a sack, but it just felt like they were constantly in the backfield, right? And that's all you can really ask for, I think, in those circumstances. And again, I mean, Wisconsin's offense is not great, Bob. Not great. But I do think Kirk Ferentz raised an interesting point post-game. He said, look, that Wisconsin is where Iowa was a couple of years ago, right? We talked about a little bit a few minutes ago. They don't have the elite defense. They don't have the elite special teams. And they're shifting through quarterbacks right now. Billy Edwards, if he was healthy, probably makes it a little bit more of a game. But, like, Billy Edwards is not a game-breaking quarterback. There was no quarterback that's on Wisconsin's roster that would have made a competitive football game yesterday. By the way, I got to say, I think it's going to be in the 30s. Seriously. I think Ohio State's defense has been probably the most impressive in college football. I think Ohio State's going to be favored by 30 or more. And again, I know how bizarre that sounds, but it doesn't guarantee anything because I think Washington State was 33.5-point underdogs yesterday to Ole Miss. And they got the ball back with like a minute 10 left, down 3. They had a shot to win it. Aaron asks, is it a good or bad thing in your opinion that we haven't talked much about the safeties this year? There's been a lot of height heading into this season. I think you can read it either way. I mean, I think you probably expected more out of Xavier Wampa. I think the one thing about Wampa is the fact that his tackling, I feel like, has been cleaner this year than in most years. He delivered a couple hard hits. I think Cohen Entringer next year is going to be really, really damn good. You just see the upside. You see the leadership. You see the stops on 4th and 1 against Indiana. He's constantly in the right place. Now, he did not have great tackling film against Indiana, missed 4 tackles in that game. But Cohen's going to be a guy that's going to be a pivotal leader next year. I mean, I'm going to be stunned if he's not a 2-time captain. So I think you could read it either way. I do think Iowa needs to attack the portal for another safety next year to kind of pair alongside Cohen. I think they need to get another cornerback as well, just because I don't see an immediate fix next year. And that's going to be the interesting part. Like for a linebacker, I think you kind of put your chips in with Preston Reese, Cam Buffington, Derek Weisskopf, like the younger linebackers that staff's very high on. I love Cam Buffington. He's one of my favorite recruits that Iowa's got in the past couple of years. His upside's really, really high. Big fan of that. But yeah, I mean, again, Iowa's defense I thought was stellar yesterday. Just kind of looking through some of the numbers here. 209 total yards given up, only 82 passing yards. Hunter Simmons, 8-21. Threw 2 picks, and then they had that pass that was thrown behind. Zach Lutmer got on the ball. And interesting that Zach said after the game when we talked about him diving on that backward pass, he said, I didn't even know that was a backwards pass. The coaches teach him, hey, if the ball's on the ground, make the referees make a decision. And he attacked it like it was live because it was live. But to have the sense of mind to be able to do that in the moment, you got to give Zach Lutmer credit for that. So, yeah, I thought the defense was spectacular yesterday. Again, Wisconsin's only scored 14 or more once in the past 8 games now, including the Iowa game. scored 25 against Nebraska last year. They gave up 44. Iowa's had 14 or more in every last 7 as well. Last 7 total outside of the Nebraska game where they had 13, but they held Nebraska at 10, right? And that's the most Iowa-Nebraska score ever. And special teams wise, I want to hit on special teams quick. Then we'll kind of flip back to the offense a little bit because I know everybody wants to talk about that. Nothing spectacular, nothing bad though, right? Reese taking a couple nice punts. Drew Stevens had a strong bounce back game, 3-3 field goals. Caden Weechin tried to return a couple, made some nice plays. But you got the overall consistency, which you wanted to see out of the Iowa special teams. And I think that's what you need to see more than anything else, right? Yeah, Mitch, I got to say, man, look, yeah. So he says Iowa's only favored by 1.5 against Penn State. To me, again, I agree that Iowa should be favored right now, especially with Drew Aller out. But what would everybody have said 3 weeks ago if I told you, hey, Penn State's coming to Iowa as the underdog? It's such a bizarre thing because I need to double check back on this, but I think Penn State was like the favorite for national title by a ton of different national pundits, personalities, outlets, etc. I mean, they're a preseason top 2 team. They still have a ton of NFL talent on their roster. I know they lost Northwestern. I know they lost to UCLA. Took Oregon to the brink, right? Maybe Oregon broke them. Still have a ton of NFL talent. But I will say, I think it's very obvious that the fan base and everybody else does not want to go to Kinnick Stadium at 6 o'clock. They do not want to play a night game in Kinnick. But it'll be an interesting game. But things are also not going to get better for Penn State. If you look at their upcoming schedule, let me look this up right now just so I can make sure I have it double checked, right? So they do get a bye next week, but then they go on the road to Ohio State before going back home and hosting Indiana, who's number 7 in the country at this time. I think Indiana is going to go into a top 4 team, right? It's a gauntlet, and they're going to see like it. If their will's not broken, Iowa has a chance to break their will. Because I think Iowa broke Wisconsin's will after the first quarter yesterday. Wisconsin has nothing to play for at this point outside of trying to get one more win. And the big question is Wisconsin going to keep Luke Fickell? I don't know that. The buyout's crazy, but you almost can't afford to keep him. We know how fast this NIL stuff works. We know how fast transfer portal works. We know how reactionary a lot of people are. But again, Luke Fickell has not given any positive signs for that program. But let's see. Logan says, knock on wood, still a ton of games we played, but if keep the trajectory, 9-3 is looking realistic, 8-4 at the worst. I'm leaning toward 8-4. I did pick 9-3 at the beginning of the season. I did think Iowa was going to be able to knock off Iowa State. And, of course, we know how close they were in that game. The big question for me is, like, you don't want to say Penn State's a must-win game, but at the same time, you look at where they're at now and you look at the schedule upcoming. Are we to the point where you expect Iowa to beat Penn State? I need to spend next couple of days and think about that. Because, again, they have a ton of NFL talent. They're coming to Kinnick Stadium. I do think even though they're going to be unranked, I think it's worth noting that the Penn State brand is still so massive, and it looks good whenever you can beat those big brands. And that's something to play for there too. But we'll see. So, I'm leaning more toward 8-4 at this point. Like, knock off Penn State, you're at 5. I think they beat Minnesota, that's 6. They beat Michigan State, 7. And then I think they beat Nebraska at this point. I think Iowa's defensive line is going to be able to get after Raiola, but Nebraska showing some fight right now too. Had a 2-minute drill yesterday against Maryland. We're able to knock them off. I know Dylan Raiola had 3 picks in that game, I believe. It's interesting. I try to catch up during the day and mostly the next day because of how much time is kind of invested in the game that I have to cover. So, I don't think Raiola played well from what I saw, but they were able to knock him off. But, yeah, I mean, the reason why I was favored against Penn State is, of course, because Drew Aller's out. I still think they probably would have been a 3.5, 4.5 favorite over Iowa. if they had Aller. I do think he makes that big of a difference because he really has not been the problem for Penn State. I know a lot of people have shifted blame on him, but the receivers have been really disappointing for them as well. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of how they respond and how much stock they're putting into this. Because the other part of me thinks this about Penn State: ton of NFL talent, as I mentioned. Lost 3 straight guys. That means that they're out of the college football playoff. They're not making it this year. This is a team with national title implications. With all of that NFL talent, our guys pack it in. Are we going to see some opt-outs for Penn State? I'm not predicting it. I'm asking hypothetical questions here. How much of their heart's really going to be in it at this point? I can't answer that. I don't know. And I don't think James Franklin knows either. But another question I have is, if they fire James Franklin, are they all going to be able to kind of turn it up a notch and play with that edge, play with that chip on their shoulder? We saw what UCLA has been doing. It's been probably one of the most impressive turnarounds in college football. Offense looks like world beaters right now. Offensive coordinators never call the play before they put up 42 against Penn State. So somebody asks, is USC's Iowa's next hardest game? Probably because of the time change. I still love Oregon. I think Oregon seems really good. I think Dante Moore is an absolute stud. I think he is the type of quarterback that could really cause some problems for Iowa. But Iowa's defense has been able to step it up. And I think Phil Parker's had a couple terrific game plans. Yeah, somebody says they don't think they're firing Franklin because the buyout's too much. Look, I get it. Penn State's got a lot of money. And again, it goes back to my point of you almost can't afford not to make a change if you have to make a change. Like, that's just the world of college athletics right now, right? Flip back to Iowa. Now, big question, big thing also, Reese Vanderzee, 3 grabs, 29 yards. I do need, let me double check. Sean Bach of our Hawkeye Insider put up his the Pro Football Focus grades and snap counts. I thought Reese Vanderzee was going to get 12 to 15. He got 27 snaps yesterday. That's more than I thought he was going to get. I think that's really positive that he could go back to a full workload probably next week. That's the thing about those lower body injuries, right? You have to kind of get football, back in conditioning shape. And Reese Vanderzee, I think it became very apparent early that Gronowski trusts Vanderzee, and I think that's also going to help push it forward. But the other part is about, the Mark Gronowski thing. In retrospect, we probably should have asked about it last night, but I think he would have played it off. We talked about how tentative he was running the football. They didn't have as many quarterback designed runs because they want to protect him a little bit. That's fine. Were his throws a little bit off because of that knee? Did he adjust how he threw a football? Did he not plant correctly? There were a couple times I thought he did not, and that's why his passes were just a little bit off. But I'll need to go back to the film and check that out as well. And again, now how are you going to attack Penn State? I think you lean on the running game. I think you lean on, if Mark's healthy, you run him a little bit. You trust that offensive line to get the job done. And I think I'm not saying you need to do that the rest of the way because you still have to showcase that you can throw the football. I think Iowa had a couple of really nice play designs yesterday that should be utilized more going forward. Still want to see a slow mesh. Saw a slow mesh against Iowa State, and you could tell they had no idea what was going on. Really wish we've been able to see that. Now, if Mark can't run, I understand why you don't want to use the slow mesh, right? So a lot of questions I have going into this week against Penn State. I really do. I don't know who I'm picking yet. But I also think it could set up for a really fun atmosphere in Kinnick Stadium. And I think a big, again, I would classify Penn State as a big win if Iowa wins from this standpoint. I go back to it's a big brand. Iowa needs to be able to go out there, put up 27 points, beat Penn State, show they can defeat the big brand in college football, show the offenses move forward, continue to kind of shift that narrative. Those are very, very important things this season. I said before the year, and I'm still sticking by it, if Iowa goes 8-4, but they continue to turn the page about changing the narrative, national narrative about the offense, and then now they have a pitch to wide receivers. Now they have a pitch to quarterbacks. Now they have a pitch to skill positions. And they have a win against a big brand team. That's a successful season. You need to utilize the transfer portal when applicable. And I think Kirk Ferentz and Tim Lester and all of them have done a nice job of kind of filling those voids and getting a playmaker. But if you can shift the narrative, you can have a shot at maybe some of those upper tier wide receivers that enter the portal. Because right now, Iowa could offer more money to a wide receiver. A guy will take less money to go to a system where he'll be utilized more and put up numbers. It's not criticizing Iowa. It's just the reality of the situation at this moment in time. So again, not going to say they need to win, but I also don't think you can go 0-3 against Indiana, Oregon, Penn State. You have to beat a big brand at Kinnick Stadium. And I do think, I'm not going to say it defines the season, but it will play a significant role about how everybody looks back at this season. But again, to kind of counter back to the Iowa-Wisconsin game last night, I think it was everything you could have expected. We've seen over the years, Iowa has come out slow a little bit in some of those bye week situations. They weren't slow yesterday. 17 first quarter points. Got the turnovers they desperately really wanted to see. Took advantage of opportunities. Yeah, Mark Gronowski had an interception. But they leaned on the run game, and they physically dominated the trenches. That is going to provide such a boost going in to next week. Now, the other part is Wisconsin only was giving up 75 yards a game on the ground, sixth best in the country. Iowa runs for 210. I know Wisconsin has not played the best rushing offenses. Numbers are numbers. Power 4 team. You have to take your victories when you can get them. So I think the other part that you really want to see moving forward, one, you need to make sure Mark's going to be healthy, right? 2, the passing game took a step back yesterday. It's not the end of the world. 137-0, you can't really complain, right? But the narrative leading up to yesterday's game was the fact that if you went from Albany to Indiana, the offense got better. The passing offense got better every single game. They were noticeably improving, right? You got to see that against Penn State now. You've got to continue that upward trajectory. Yes, there will be hiccups, but you cannot go back to what it was against like Iowa State and Albany. You have to continue to move forward because that's what's going to make the difference in an Oregon game and at USC. And I'd even argue at Nebraska, because if Nebraska's 8-3 going into that game, you know how much Memorial Stadium is going to be rocking. It's a really good venue in college football. Fans passionate. They actually see a glimmer of hope for the first time in over a decade. Rewind that. They see a glimmer of hope in October. It's the glimmer of hope in October rather than preseason, right? A lot of positives, though. I think you look at Kamari Moulton, Reese Vanderzee, Trevor Lauk. There are so many pieces that Tim Lester is going to have next year. You probably wish you have Sam Phillips for another year. It's unfortunate. We'll see if Terrence Smith can maybe break through that wide receiver room. I think Dayton Howard still has a chance to be really, really good as well. Then we'll see how the defense holds up. we know it's not an elite defense compared to past years, but like Iowa's been a top 3, top 5 defense forever. And that's credit to Phil Parker, credit to the way Iowa develops, the way they recruit, the way they practice, etc. You got to give a lot of credit to TJ Hall. I've not mentioned him. TJ Hall, I think, has been a legit cornerback. One, has not had an interception this season, but his game's just gone to a completely different level. I think he's playing his way onto an NFL roster at this point. I probably would not have said that a year ago. Then we'll see what happens with the linebackers. A lot of question marks hanging in next year, and I know I'm kind of thinking big picture at this point in time. But I think you can kind of see what's kind of cooking in the background. I think that there are a lot of younger players on the roster that have a real chance to be successful in the next couple of years. Somebody asked me, do I think there'll be 3 Big Ten teams in the playoffs? Yeah. Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. Obviously, Penn State's out. Michigan's out. Nebraska's not making a playoff. Trying to run down the list in my head. UCLA is out. I don't think USC will make it. Maybe USC has a shot if they finish off strong, but I don't think they're a playoff caliber team. But ultimately, I think you have to walk away from yesterday. Look, the Wisconsin team sucks, no doubt. But Iowa took care of business. Wisconsin had not been shut out at home since 1980. Iowa has not shut out Wisconsin since 1929, I think it was. You can't complain. Overall, it was a really, really good day for Iowa. Obviously, again, to recap everything, passing offense needs to bounce back. Really curious where Jayden Harrell is in his recovery. I thought Jay Montgomery was fine. They didn't really need a lot out of him. I thought the defensive line was spectacular. I thought Graves was awesome. TJ Hall had another pass breakup. I think he's up to 8 for the season. He's been really, really good. Special teams needs to be consistent like they were yesterday because you can't have a block punt. I thought they were going to block a Wisconsin punt, by the way. There were a couple times where they were right there. A lot of positive things moving forward, though, going into Penn State. And I think, again, especially post-bye week where we've seen Iowa struggle, I think that was a really, really good thing. So, again, we're going to have a lot more coverage at HawkeyeInsider.com. I really appreciate everybody spending some about, half hour with me. We'll have a Swarmcast later this week. Iowa men's basketball and women's basketball media day is going to be on Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to be all over that as well. So we're getting the thick of it. Sean Bach, Elliot Clough, and myself will continue to hold it down. Really appreciate all your support. And again, stay locked in to HawkeyeInsider.com. Have a good Sunday, guys. Thanks.